but I just, just somebody said, well, you can pick it up, like this. I don't know.
Good morning, everyone. For millennia, the Western Abenaki people have roamed these lands along our rivers and called this place home. They've loved and cared for this earth which sustained them, and we are very privileged to be gathering here as a religious community. Let us honor this legacy of love and stewardship of the land. I'm Pam Walker, your worship associate for this morning. My pronouns are she, her. So we have a special morning today on this Sunday after Thanksgiving. Welcome to this very special service for all ages. We will be honoring the determination and passion and sacrifice of the many people who fought for justice and equality during the civil rights movement of the 50s and the 60s. We will be listening to and singing the music that unified people in the struggle as they marched and protested. Feel free to clap and dance as you want to honor this important time in our nation's history. There are shakers for any of us young and old who want to use them, and I don't know where they are, but we will find out. Someone will tell us. The words to the music are at the back of the order of service. So as we come to each song, Eliza will kick us off. Please rise in body or spirit. So on behalf of all the worship team, I'm delighted to welcome everyone, those of you in the sanctuary, and those of you who are watching on live stream on Zoom. Thanks for joining us today to be together. We deeply appreciate your presence and your fellowship as part of this beloved Unitarian Church of Montpelier. For over 155 years, this church has been a sanctuary for those seeking spiritual sustenance, as well as peace and justice in the world. With you, we continue on that path. Please know we have hearing assist devices available on the table in the back, and you can also listen to or watch the service in the fireplace room if you need to leave the sanctuary for any reason. If you have a personal concern, a challenge, or a loss, or something that calls for a listening ear, love, support, and prayers as a spiritual community, a member of our lay pastoral care ministry team is available in the sanctuary after the service if you'd like to share more deeply. This morning, our lay pastoral caregiver is Betty McKinnell. Betty, would you wave to us so we know where you are? There she is, right over here. So you can find Betty after the service. So it's a pleasure to have newcomers and guests joining us for this worship on Thanksgiving weekend. If it's your first or second time visiting us and you wish to do so, you're invited to stand or wave so we can greet you. Anybody want to say hello to us? Yay. Yay. Looks like... Okay. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And Jeff. Welcome. Welcome to you both. We'd love to have you join us at coffee hour afterwards downstairs in the vestry so we can offer you a more personal welcome. So any newcomers, the congregation, you folks, we have a welcome form at the hospitality table for you to fill out so we can connect with you more fully. Now let's all join in the welcome by greeting your neighbors in the pews. They're kind of spread out, but say hello. Thanks for sharing with such gusto. We're still full of turkey. And now, let's pause and take a deep breath, make sure our cell phones are set to worship mode, and enter more deeply into the time of worship as we listen to the prelude by Eliza in the suite By and By.
Earlier this month, Pam and I, along with UCM member Barbara Thompson, who's up here on the chancel, and friend of UCM Rebecca Shepard, traveled to Alabama for a pilgrimage led by the Living Legacy Project. We started our journey in Birmingham. There, in April of 1963, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. led a march in protest of segregation and was arrested and put in jail. There were many white Christian ministers who did not support his actions. From his jail cell, he wrote them a letter in response. The following words are taken from this letter. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly.
So he continues, you may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are exactly right in your call for negotiation. Indeed, this is the purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and establish such creative tension that a community that has consistently refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that it can no longer be ignored.
When you are harried by day and haunted by night by the fact that you are a Negro, living constantly at tiptoe stance, never knowing what to expect next, and plagued with inner fears and outer resentments, when you are forever fighting a degenerating sense of nobodiness, then you will understand why we find it difficult to wait. There comes a time when the cup of endurance runs over and men are no longer willing to be plunged into an abyss of injustice where they experience the bleakness of corroding despair. I hope, sirs, you can understand our legitimate and unavoidable impatience. I invite you now to rise and body your spirit for our opening hymns. We start with number 1015 in the teal hymnal, I Know I Can.
I
certainly got us in the mood. Now's the time for us to light our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. And this morning, we welcome Fiona Rollins to light the chalice. I invite you to light a chalice at home or candles if you have any nearby. You'll be fine. We light this flame, an enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Please join us now in saying our congregational covenant. It's in your order of service. We covenant to speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within. Treat each other with compassion and honor our differences. Take responsibility for the impact our words and actions and inactions have on each other. Support each other in times of need and of grief, and celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives. Honor the gifts of the past and be gentle with each other as we grow. Encourage each other in the brave work of creating a more beloved community and a healthy, sustainable world. And forgive each other and start again. And now Sally will lead us in Time for All Ages.
Good morning. I would like to invite any children and youth to come forward for a story. If you are visiting and you've never been here before, you're welcome to come up too. I would like you to come up and meet me over here. By the way, before I begin the story, this is a special announcement for children. No one knows where those shakers are, but if you come up here, I have some special shakers just for this morning. So come on up. Good morning. Some of you I haven't seen for a long time, and some of you are brand new. I'm really glad you came up. If you come just a little bit closer, I say that every week. If you come a little bit closer, you'll be able to see what I'm going to show you in just a minute. So this morning is a special morning because we stay in the sanctuary all together. We're all one big happy family here today. And I want to tell you a story that will help you understand what we're doing a little bit this morning. So I want to show you a picture. That's why I thought you'd want to come up closer. Okay, so this is a picture. What do you see? Two people. A girl. In a house. With a doll. That's important for this picture. This is a picture of a little girl at Christmas time, and she's in the kitchen with her grandmother, and she's showing her grandmother her doll that she got for Christmas. I wonder how old she is. Can you take a guess?
6. 10?
I think she's between 6 and 10. I think she's younger than 8. What do you think? Between 6 and 10, younger than 8. 7. And you're 7 too. Cool. And I bet you there's some others up here who are close to 7 or a little bit younger than 7 and a little bit older than 7. Here's another picture of that same little girl. Interesting, huh? So when this little girl was this age, oh, by the way, I was going to say something else. Can you tell from this picture that it's kind of an old picture from a long time ago? What are the clues? This one especially. Black and white. It's also gray. And it's kind of fuzzy because that's what the cameras were back in those days. And I was going to let you guess, but I'm going to tell you that little girl was me. That was me when I was a little girl. And at that time, there were things that were going on in our country I didn't know about because I was a little girl. That's not my job to know about that. It's mostly the grown-ups' job to know about that. But there were things that were happening where people were being treated unfairly. And as that little girl got older, she learned more and more. And when she went to visit her grandparents another time, her grandpa told her some of the things that were happening. He lived by the ocean, and there was a sign on the beach that said, "White people can swim here, and black people can swim here." And my grandpa said, that doesn't make any sense at all. And so there were people at that time who were working to make things more fair. Do you remember last week when we were singing, some of you were here, when we were singing our song about the principles, and we said each person needs a voice and vote? Well, some of the people who were being treated unfairly, and some other people joined them. They said, we could make a difference if we could vote for people who could, speak for us. So, of course, someone made rules and said, sorry, you can't vote. You can't sign up. You have to have money to vote. You have to do this, you have to do that. And there were people who said, that is not fair. We're going to see what we can do to change that. When this little girl, who was me, got to be a teenager, that was a long time, there were some laws that were finally passed, and things got a little bit better. And they were getting better, but they weren't perfect. And people are still working to make it more fair so that everybody gets a voice and vote. And one of the things, I skipped ahead of my story. One of the things my grandpa told me was, he said, this is your job, and I'm going to tell you, this is your job. My grandpa said, your job is to treat people fairly wherever you are. And he also said that if there are bullies, maybe you need to say, don't do this bad thing to my friend or whomever. But that's kind of scary to do that. Have you ever had to stand up to a bully? Or have you ever had to say, that's not the right thing to do? It's kind of scary. And it is sometimes for grown-ups too. So you know what they did to make it not so scary? They started singing songs. And when we're all singing together, when we were singing This Little Light of Mine, did you hear everybody clapping and singing? That kind of makes you brave. So this morning, a lot of the things that we're going to do are singing some of the songs from that time. And how do we know those were songs from that time? Well, Reverend Joan was telling us, they went on a special trip. It wasn't a vacation trip. It wasn't just touring around. They went on a special trip called a pilgrimage to learn about what happened during that time when this little girl that was me, when she was a little girl, and what has happened since. And they're going to share some of those songs. So I'm going to ask you to listen the best you can and understand what you can. And in the meantime, here's your job. Let's see how many people we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. You guys are going to be sorry you didn't come up when you see these beauties. So this is my paperclip container. Now it is a musical instrument. Clara, have at it. And is that, wait a minute. I forgot your name. Luca, would you like this one? Clara, you can pass that. Julia, you want to be here's your instrument. Clara, okay, here you go. Genevieve. And do I know your name? Ivy, I met you last week, but you have a different shirt on, so I can't remember who you are. So, Ivy, here's your instrument. And Felix, here's yours. How about the push pins? Now, when the songs are going today, whenever they're playing the songs, if you don't know the words, or even if you do, there's also this lovely Brad's instrument. So when the songs are playing, if you will do that, that will be your job, to listen carefully to what they're saying, to play your instrument, to be kind, and speak out when you need to, okay? That sound good? Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sally. That's inspiring for all of us. Be kind and speak out, right? So, a few announcements. Big doings here next weekend. The Holiday Fair, next Friday and Saturday. They're accepting donations as of this afternoon until next Friday. People are needed after the service to help set up the arbor structure you all remember that's in the vestry. So anyone who can help, please show up during coffee hour. So after the service, also, there's a potluck of Thanksgiving leftovers right in the vestry. So I don't know, I haven't seen the spread, but I'm sure there's some delicious things awaiting us. Please consult the weekly e-news for other announcements. As you know, it's updated each week on Friday morning. Generosity is both a spiritual practice and a practice central to the well-being of our church community. It's a blessing and a privilege for our free church tradition to support the shared values of this congregation with the generosity of our collective financial resources. Each month of the UCM Community Pouch program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization. We're at the end of November, and this whole month we have been celebrating the Abenaki Circle of Courage, which supports about 53 young people in learning about their culture and then passing it on to others. Half of our cash offering will go to the pouch recipient, and the other half will go to support the mission and ministry of this congregation. If you wish to designate your entire offering to the community pouch, please indicate that with a note attached to your cash or a memo line of your check. Checks will go to the church unless designated otherwise. You know the offering pouches are on the side aisles, and please pass them towards the center. And they are being collected as we speak. We're so grateful to each and every one of you for the generosity that you're able to pass on to other people. Your offering will now be gratefully received. And we're ready to sing again. Not quite. Oh, that's right. Go ahead, Donia.
With the exception of the first couple of songs that we heard and sang today, all of our songs in today's service are civil rights era songs, all of which originated as African American spirituals. This extraordinary body of music, literally thousands and thousands of songs, which have formed the core of our American folk music heritage, were originally composed and sung by enslaved people whose names are all lost to us. They were sung as a creative expression of hope, strength, joy, mutual support, community, and resilience. And they have a continuing power over centuries to move and to inspire. It's actually really incredible if you think about it. Imagine the people and the conditions in which these songs were first sung, and follow the through line to today. Could those people ever have imagined the profound cultural impact and influence that their creations would have had? Just the extended life that they've had, the meaning and inspiration that they've offered to so many people over centuries in all sorts of struggles. And so some people wonder, the question of appropriation is out there, and they wonder about us, a bunch of privileged, mostly white people singing these songs, and how do we sing these songs when the words sometimes are so far away we can hardly imagine the lived experience that gave rise to these songs. And so what I say is that we sing them not appropriating them, but with full appreciation, with aspiring to understand, and even and maybe especially when the lyrics might make us uncomfortable. We sing them with respect and gratitude, with joy and with spirit, acknowledging the gift passed on to us by those who persevered through this music. And on a practical note, as Pam mentioned, we're not going to be introducing each of the songs as they come up. We're just going to launch right into them, and they are all participatory, which means there's no performance. You sing too, and as you want, stand, dance in the aisles, clap, stomp, shout, whatever you want to do, or stay seated if you want to. That's okay too. And that's it. We're going to sing. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to freedom land. Justice ain't gonna let no justice turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to freedom land. Hatred ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no hatred turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching on to freedom land.
Ain't gonna let anxiety turn me around. Hi, I'm Barbara. I grew up and was educated in central Illinois in the late 50s and early 1960s. The events of the civil rights movement that we learned about on our Alabama pilgrimage this month took place at about the same time, 1955 to 1965. I knew about these events. I had followed them in the news, but I did not fully understand the importance, the significance of these events to American history at that time. This pilgrimage gave me that understanding. These were the years immediately following the Supreme Court's Brown versus the Board of Education ruling in 1954. It declared that state-sanctioned segregation of public schools was unconstitutional. We visited Alabama towns and cities where Black Americans in the 1950s and 60s put their lives on the line to end segregation in public facilities. Our pilgrimage took us to Marion and Selma, Birmingham, and Montgomery. We met living veterans of the movement. We visited churches where they held mass meetings for people to learn about their rights and to organize to fight for them. We spent time in museums, which used the latest technologies to bring these stories of the movement and its heroes and heroines to life. We visited Dexter Parsonage, the Montgomery home of Martin Luther King and his family during his leadership of the Montgomery bus boycott. We followed 54 miles of the Selma-Montgomery National Historic Trail. It's partly maintained by the National Park Service, so your taxpayer money helps to support it. And we walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, 2 by 2, in silence. And we learned about freedom songs, the songs we are singing here in the service today. We learned about the raw power they had to give community and voice to people who had been voiceless. We had 4 trip leaders and the motor coach driver who took care of us on our trip. One person handled logistics, one person specialized in the history of the civil rights movement, one person attended to our spiritual needs, and one person, Effie Burt from Mississippi, was our song leader. She led us, this group of mostly white, mostly older pilgrims, in singing freedom songs of the movement on the bus every day as we traveled from town to city on the Alabama highways. We sang them first thing in the morning when we set out, and last thing in the evening when we returned to our hotel. Effie was one of the few persons of color in our group of pilgrims. She had a magnificent voice, which she used to sing gospel, folk, and jazz. She was retired from many years of service as a security guard at a John Deere factory in Mississippi. One morning as we were getting on the bus, she told me that she had to retire early from John Deere because working without a mask for all those years, she had lost her voice. The toxic factory fumes had caused nodules to form in her throat and vocal cords. I have some in mind today from sinusitis, not toxic factory fumes. And these had taken her voice away. Now, I and others of us on the bus, white folks, had been feeling a bit inadequate in singing the freedom songs. Maybe we didn't think we could sing. Maybe we thought we didn't have rhythm. Maybe we were inhibited. So, intrigued by the story of losing her voice and being forced to retire, I asked Effie, "So how come you have this beautiful, full-bodied, strong voice now? What can I do to improve my failing voice? Do you have any tips for me?" Well, every morning when I got up, I would just start humming a little tune that I liked. I would just keep humming it and working with it until I could sing the tune and the words of the song. And gradually, over time, I got my voice back. So the next morning, while still in bed, I started to practice Effie's advice. I started humming the tune to This Little Light of Mine, which we just sang, and I continued it the following day. Right now, I'm trying to incorporate the practice of a little light humming of a song I like every day and throughout my day. I think I'm making progress. It's going to take some time, though.
Before we begin, I want to thank all of my shakers. I can see you shaking, so thank you very much. And this, I'd like to ask the children to join in on this part of our service too. This is especially for you to join in. What we're going to do is do a body prayer. We've done this before, so most of you probably know it. It goes like this. So if you'll watch me so you can do it too. It goes, help, thanks, wow, amen. Let's try it again. You can say the words with me. Help, thanks, wow, amen. We'll do it once more with words, and then we're just going to do it silently 3 times, okay? So we're going to go, help, thanks, wow, amen. Thank you.
Barbara, Pam, and I traveled from Vermont to Alabama to learn more about the civil rights movement. We use that word movement a lot when talking about the struggles in our society for greater justice, for human rights, for peace. But what really makes a movement a movement? One of the most important things that I learned on our pilgrimage was just how many people, everyday people, children and teenagers, students, mothers and fathers, grandparents, teachers, janitors, postal workers, how many ordinary, everyday people made the civil rights movement what it was and gave it the power to make big and important changes. Now, I bet most people here have heard the name Rosa Parks before. Raise your hand if you're familiar with Rosa Parks and her story. That's most people here, I think. All right, this is gonna be interactive. Someone just call out, why do we know Rosa Parks' name? What did she do that was so important? She didn't give up her seat on the bus. She helped to start a bus boycott. Exactly. She refused to give up her seat, and this was because as a Black person living in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, she was told to live by the rules that said Blacks were only allowed to sit in certain parts of the bus. And one December evening in 1955, while riding the bus, she was asked by the driver to give her seat, which was towards the front of the crowded bus, to a white passenger. She said no, and she was arrested. Rosa Parks' role in the civil rights movement was so important and so recognized that there is an entire museum dedicated to her legacy. We visited that museum on our pilgrimage, and I think we're about to see a photo that was taken. This is the photo taken outside of the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery. And there's also a photo here of the marker. It's placed at the exact spot where she refused to give up her seat and was arrested and taken off the bus. Now, how many people here know the name Joanne Robinson? Far fewer. I think I see just one or two hands. It was at the Rosa Parks Museum in Montgomery that I first learned about Joanne Robinson's important role in the civil rights movement. Joanne Robinson was a teacher at Alabama State College in Montgomery. Like Rosa Parks, she was active in civic and political life. More than a year before Rosa Parks' arrest, Joanne Robinson had proposed a bus boycott to protest the unjust system of segregation in public transportation. And now, with Rosa Parks' arrest, Joanne Robinson saw the perfect opportunity to launch the boycott. She jumped into action as soon as she heard about Rosa Parks being arrested, and with the help of some of the supporters of the movement, she produced a flyer calling for a one-day boycott the following Monday, December 5th. Now, this was before we had fancy copying machines that produce thousands of copies with the press of just one button. Joanne Robinson and her team used a mimeograph, an old-fashioned and hand-cranked machine, to produce over 50,000 flyers. So for all you kids, 50,000 is kind of an abstract number. If you imagine there are maybe 100 people in this sanctuary, multiply that by 5,000, and you'll get 50,000. So that Sunday, December 4th, Black ministers who now were seeing these flyers announced the boycott from their pulpits and called on their parishioners to participate. And on Monday, so this is just 3 days after Rosa Parks was arrested, over 40,000 Black bus riders, the majority of those who took the bus in Montgomery, joined the boycott. That afternoon, Black leaders met to form the Montgomery Improvement Association and elected the young, just 26 years old, Martin Luther King Jr., pastor of Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, as its president. They decided to continue the boycott until the city met its demands. And the boycott lasted 1 full year. 1 full year of thousands of people walking miles and miles to school and back, to work and back, to get their groceries and back home. There were people who organized carpools so those who needed a ride could get a ride. They were part of the movement. Many Black taxi drivers lowered their fares for those who were boycotting. They were also a part of the movement. After a long struggle and taking their case to the courts, it was ruled that the city of Montgomery was violating the US Constitution, and they had to integrate their buses and allow Black and white passengers to have an equal opportunity to choose where they sat on the bus. This was an important victory in the movement for equality, freedom, and human rights. Joanne Robinson was especially proud of the role that women and everyday people played in the bus boycott. She said, "That boycott was not supported by a few people. It was supported by 52,000 people."
I'm going to tell you about a hero of the Selma to Montgomery March. It's the story of a brave young girl, Linda Blackman, who became involved in the movement for voting rights back in 1965, 10 whole years after the Montgomery boycott. We met her on the pilgrimage where she told us this story. When she was 7, her mother needed a hospital when she had an emergency giving birth to Linda's little brother. The nearest hospital was for white people only, and Linda's mother died for lack of care. At that young age, Linda made a passionate vow to herself to change things and work for justice. She snuck out of school to attend trainings in nonviolent action. She was ready to go. And in fact, she was involved in a lot of different protests. But when she was 13, she got more involved in the voting rights movement when she heard Martin Luther King Jr. speak and urge people to persuade segregationists with nonviolence. And this is an often used phrase, steady, loving confrontation. Powerful words. She committed to go on children's marches in Selma to advocate for the right to vote. For weeks, she marched and was sent to jail to live in cramped cells with other kids her age over and over again, 9 times by the time she was 14. She had been hit with nightsticks and whips. When the marchers sang, "We shall overcome," her fear of being beaten was dispelled. So singing together took away fear. During one of the marches, a young man, Jimmy Lee Jackson, was shot and killed by the state police. Movement leaders immediately called for a huge protest march from Selma to the state capitol in Montgomery to demand the right to vote for all Black people. On the first march attempt, which is called Bloody Sunday, you may have heard about, the Alabama State Police tried to stop the protesters with billy clubs, cattle prods, tear gas, and even horses that stormed through the crowd when the marchers tried to cross over the Alabama River on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. You've probably all seen pictures of that dramatic time. The marchers remained nonviolent and didn't resist. Linda was there. She was pushed and kicked until she passed out. Despite, I read one place, 35 stitches, but it might not have been quite that many, but that's enough. She participated in the march a couple of days later that went 54 miles over 5 days. They camped out every night. They walked in the rain. She was the youngest person to march the entire distance at age 14, in spite of her fatigue and her fear. She turned 15 during the march. I think it was the second day. The anger of segregationists and the Ku Klux Klan ran very high at this time, so it was very dangerous for anyone fighting for freedom for Blacks. 2 white advocates for voting rights died during this march, during the time of this march. A young white Unitarian minister, I can't remember where he's from, James Reeb, was attacked at night in Selma after he left a restaurant during the march time, and he died. Another tragedy during this time of nonviolence was the death of Viola Liuzzo, a Unitarian activist from Michigan, a mother of 5 who drove to Selma to help with the march. She was that motivated. Her car was followed by segregationists who pushed her off the road and shot her. We visited the memorial to her on an isolated stretch of the highway where she died. Right after the march, SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, began a campaign to help Blacks register to vote. Many Black people lost their jobs or were evicted from their homes after registering to vote. So the movement organized a tent city to house and provide for people needing new jobs, certainly housing and food, after their sacrifice. Because of the pressure of these protests over time, about 5 months later, the very first Voting Rights Act was passed by President Lyndon Johnson in '65. It worked. By 1966, the number of registered African Americans in Alabama was 4 times the number in 1960. Yet Linda Blackman's words to our pilgrimage delegation were very clear. She sat in a chair talking to the 38 of us, and it was really very harrowing. She said, "Very little has changed. The struggle continues." She says in her book for young adults that she wrote called Turning 15 on the Road to Freedom, and there's a copy in our library, the color thing is still very much alive and running rampant all over this United States. I would like to say to young people that it's time for change again. Whatever wrongs you see, you can change with steady, loving confrontation. Don't stop when you get tired or discouraged. Stay determined. That's the steady part. Don't give in to the hate. Stay positive. That's the loving part. And stand up to the bullying. Wow, my third page, where'd it go? Hold on. Stand up to the bullying with the power of your people. That's confrontation. Some states are now using many tactics to restrict the right to vote for citizens by reducing the number of polling places, shortening voting hours, eliminating the drive-by voting, and others. The Voting Rights Act, the crown jewel of the civil rights movement back in the 60s and the 50s, continues to be chipped away at before our very eyes. Linda Blackman told us she thinks that Alabama is still a Jim Crow state. That's the indicator that there are many, many restrictions and problems of injustice for Black people. That's why she's urging young people to use their voice to help change her country for the better by telling her story to high school and college students. Change is possible, and there's a need for everyone to vote. This is a much stronger effort than ever before. I'm really inspired by all of her commitment in continuing this fight for the access to the vote, and I'm planning to do my part in this effort. As we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice and carry within each of us its healing flame, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days and the weeks ahead. Please join me now in our unison mission statement. It's in your order of service. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve a human need, and protect the earth, our home.
The following words by Brian Stevenson are found in the National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama. We will remember with hope, because hopelessness is the enemy of justice, with courage, because peace requires bravery, with persistence, because justice is a constant struggle, with faith, because we shall overcome. And we conclude our service with the postlude. We're going to sit at the welcome table.